Hi everybody, Lynn Burkhead at MajorLeagueFishing.com, sitting alongside Major League Fishing angler Scott Ashmore. And Scott, you have, like a lot of anglers do, a favorite technique, which is fishing a jig, but you don't do it the way that the other guys do it. Tell me how Scott Ashmore fishes a jig.
Well, one of the things and it's not really something that was taught to me. It's actually something I figured out, and there's different ways to present a jig, and mine is a little different. I get a lot of reaction strikes. A lot of fish, I think, they see something going by and it's not really exciting them and not really triggering that strike. One of the things that I do is I hop the bait. I pop it up and then let it fall, and just keep in a tight line. And so, in my mind, in my experience, that's basically what a crawdad does. He's in that defensive mode with his pinchers out, and he's swimming away from you, but he's going to sink and get down below a rock. And so, when you make that bait kind of come up and then fall away, that bass thinks he's going to get below a rock and he's not going to be able to eat him. So, that's the way I present it. I get more strikes that way. There are times when you go to swim that dude up like that you might be getting eaten and you don't know it, and you'll bump the fish and miss one occasionally. But within that, you caught a lot more fish. So it's something that I definitely key on, and it worked well for me yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday you experienced your first ever Major League Fishing round, and you were right in the thick of things. We can't reveal exactly what happened yet, but you were right in the thick of things. Had a very good and successful day, as did several other anglers. And I got to watch you, and the technique you're talking about, it certainly worked for you yesterday. What was the biggest part of the learning curve to learn to fish that technique successfully? Was it having the right size jig? Was it having the right size line? What was the biggest portion of your learning curve there?
It's not something I do just with a jig. I also do it with a crawl. But and I throw a 20-pound line. There's occasions when fish don't want that presentation, but in my experience, it works about 80% of the time. So
now you said 20-pound line. Are we talking fluoro?
Fluorocarbon, yeah. I throw a 20-pound line on a jig, and where we were yesterday was really clear water. So I've said it more than once. I'm a strong believer that this line craze of going to light line to get fish to bite, it's overkill. And I caught a lot of fish yesterday. I swung the fish in. I wasn't worried about breaking my line, which is kind of nice. And say with the Carolina rig or even a jig, the stretch ratio with that fluorocarbon trilene line, is a lot less than say a 15-pound line. So, and you're down there in the rocks and stuff too. There's a lot of abrasion that happens, and you get hung up, and you can pop it off and not break your line. So, 20-pound line that's what I use.
What about the jig? What do you like to use? I'm assuming we're talking just a regular flipping jig. And which size do you like? What colors?
The clear water application yesterday, I used a peanut butter and jelly with a green pumpkin Orlando watermelon type trailer, and then I like a crawl on the back of it. Yesterday I used a 1/2 ounce jig, and then the wind blew and I switched over to a 3/4. Actually, I had both for those gusts came and went, and so you had to kind of adapt with what Mother Nature was bringing. So I used both, and that 3/4 ounce jig that as I got into the tournament really helped me keep the bait where I wanted it. I wasn't just fishing deep water with that jig, that football jig. Yeah, I was fishing a little of both, and I caught fish in 3 foot of water, and I caught them in 7 to 10. So
well, that's why I asked, was it a regular flipping jig? But you just said a football jig.
Yeah, they were all football.
You were throwing in some very shallow water that I don't typically associate a football jig with.
Mm-hmm. But you're coming through rocks, and those fish, they especially smallmouth, they move up there shallow and feed on those either shad or crawdads or whatever they're doing. They're nomads. They're always moving around, but especially when it's windy, they can get up there shallow.
How about the rod and reel setup that you were using for that?
St. Croix is what I use and what I love, and yesterday, it's one of the rods that I throw a lot. 2 of the rods I have a whole lot of, and one's a 7.6 medium heavy, medium fast tip, that I throw with the jig, and the other one is a 7.4 heavy. And you know, with those rods, you can you know, they're a little bit different. I like the 7.6 medium heavy, medium fast to do a lot with. I throw a Carolina rig with it. I'll throw a jig with it. I'll throw a big worm with it. You know, just a lot of applications. Very versatile rod, and that's what I used yesterday. My reel, I used two different reels yesterday. Both of them were Abu Garcia, and in a 7.9, and the other one was actually a 9-to-1, that new rocket reel. So great setup, man. It really worked out for what I was doing.
It was a great setup. It was a great technique. Got to watch you up close and personal for a little while, and it certainly worked. And if you'd like to find out more about Scott Ashmore, about the other Major League Fishing anglers and the techniques that they use to be the MLF stars that they are, go to MajorLeagueFishing.com.